Cookies are a must-have for this time of year. These are easy to make and they'll be perfect to share with your friends and family for the holiday. Hey y'all, I'm Valerie and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm sharing 6 delicious cookie recipes that'll be perfect for Christmas. Okay y'all, let's get started. These cherry kiss cookies were really fun to make and they were absolutely adorable. To the bowl of my stand mixer, I added 2 sticks of softened butter along with 1 cup of powdered sugar. Oh, and a half a teaspoon of salt. Now you're going to cream these together on about medium speed until it's light and fluffy. You're going to need a 10-ounce jar of maraschino cherries. I drained them, but I did reserve that juice. I chopped those cherries into tiny pieces. I set those cherries to the side, and into that butter sugar mixture, I added 2 teaspoons of that cherry juice. And we won't need any more of the rest, so you can do whatever you want with it. Next, we're adding half a teaspoon of almond extract, and you want to be very careful with that. You don't want to add too much of it. I also added a little bitty splash of vanilla. And if you want to do like I did, you can add a little bit of the red Wilton gel food coloring just to give these cookies a pink color. And with that mixer running on low speed, I went ahead and added those chopped cherries. By the way, you want to make sure those cherries are drained very well. I let mine sit out on a paper towel until they were as dry as I could get them. And that was 2 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour that I just added in there. I did mix it on low speed until it was just combined. And a couple things I want to repeat about this recipe that are very important. Make sure you drain those cherries very well. Chop them up. You'll end up with about 2/3 of a cup of chopped cherries, and only add 2 teaspoons of that cherry juice into that dough. Now, I was a little nervous that this cookie dough would spread, so I did chill mine in the refrigerator for only 20 minutes though. Okay, I've got my cookie sheet ready, and I have a little bit of granulated sugar. I'm using a cookie scoop to make these, that way they're all the same size. And that's a 1.5 tablespoon cookie scoop. I'm just taking that cookie dough after I rolled it into a ball, and I'm rolling it around in that granulated sugar. Now place it on the cookie sheet and then continue with the rest of that dough. These really were fun to make, and I love to find new recipes, especially for the holidays. And after you get them all rolled up, they're going into the oven to bake at 350 for 8 to 10 minutes. You'll know they're done when the edges, just around the outside edges, start to turn golden brown. I did let mine cool down for about 5 minutes maybe, and then I put a Hershey Kiss in the center of each cookie. Then I transferred them to a cooling rack so they could completely cool. These cookies are perfect to take to any holiday party. They're great to give as gifts to family and friends, and they are absolutely delicious. The texture of these cookies are really tender. They're more like a shortbread cookie. And I love how that Hershey Kiss on top softens up just perfectly. And I love maraschino cherries, and they add the best flavor to these. I also love that these are a little different. You know, you expect the peanut butter kiss cookies at Christmas, but not cherry kiss cookies. And I'm telling you, everyone is going to go crazy over these. For all my chocolate lovers, you are going to love these double chocolate crinkle cookies. In a medium-sized bowl, I added 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, along with 1 cup of Hershey's cocoa powder. You're also going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And I always sift my baking powder just to get rid of all those lumps. Now you're just going to mix this until combined, and then we're going to set it aside. Now in the bowl of my stand mixer, I added 1½ sticks of butter, and for the sugars, I did 1½ cups of granulated sugar and ½ cup of brown sugar. Now you're going to beat these together on medium speed until they're light and fluffy, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes. Now you do want to make sure you scrape the sides of the bowl down, just in case you missed anything. Okay, right here I'm adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I went ahead and turned that mixer on, and then I slowly added in 4 eggs. And when you add them one at a time like this, it just incorporates a lot better. And you're just going to mix that until it's all completely combined. Now we're going to grab that dry flour cocoa powder mixture we made up earlier, and you're going to add a little bit at a time, kind of the same way we did the eggs. But if you add this all at the same time, you're going to end up with a big cloud of cocoa powder everywhere. Okay, and when you have that all in there and all mixed together, you're going to add in 1 cup of mini chocolate chips. Y'all are going to laugh at me here. The recipe called for 1 cup of mini chocolate chips. I didn't have mini chocolate chips, and I did not want to mess this recipe up. So I tried to chop those chocolate chips up a little smaller. And then I just mixed them in until combined. Now here's the mandatory part of this recipe. You have to chill this cookie dough for at least 3 hours, or even better, overnight. And it'll be good for 3 days. Just make sure you cover it tightly with plastic wrap. And I ended up refrigerating mine overnight. And the next day, when I was ready to bake them, I did take that dough out of the refrigerator and let it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes, just until I was able to scoop it. I used a 1½ tablespoon size cookie scoop. You're just going to scoop you up some dough, roll it into a ball, and then roll it around in powdered sugar. Oh, and I learned something about crinkle cookies when I made these. The recipe did state that you roll them in powdered sugar and then roll them around in your hand again and then re-roll them in powdered sugar. That helps them to look a little more crinkly. So I rolled each ball and then I rolled it once in powdered sugar. I did that until I filled up my cookie sheet. Then I went back through all those cookies, re-rolled them in my palm. You might have to do this over the sink because it will make a mess. Then you're going to re-roll it in powdered sugar. And I am going to warn you, this dough is very, very sticky. And your hands do get a little messy when you make them, but it is totally worth it. Now they go into the oven to bake at 350 for 10 minutes. And you do want to put that cookie dough back into the refrigerator until you're ready to roll more. These came out perfect. I was so excited about them. They were just the cutest little things I ever did see. And you'll know they're done when the edges are set and they're still a little soft in the middle. Oh, and I let them cool on the cookie sheet. Just do not overbake them. I baked mine for 10 minutes, no more. These have to be one of my new favorite cookies. The outside is a little crisp and the inside is fudgy like a brownie. And I'm telling you, they are packed full of chocolate flavor. So if you're a chocoholic like I am, you are gonna love these. I cannot believe this was the first time that I've ever had a Snickerdoodle, and they were amazing. To a large bowl, you're going to add in 3 cups of all-purpose flour, along with 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar. Now this is a necessity for these cookies. You do not want to leave it out. I also added half a teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Then whisk until combined. I set that dry mixture aside for just a little bit. Now over to my stand mixer, I added in 2 sticks of softened butter, along with 1½ cups of sugar. Now with the mixer on high speed, you're going to cream these together. That took about 2 minutes. Now I'm adding in 2 eggs and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now you're going to mix this and make sure you scrape your bowl down halfway through and just mix it until everything is well combined. Now it's time to add the dry ingredients, and you're going to add this a little at a time until you've added it all. So add a little, then give it a mix, and then add a little more until you've used it all. Have y'all ever had a Snickerdoodle, and what do you think about them? I am in love. I've been living under a rock, I tell you. I've been deprived all my life. Yeah, these are definitely a new favorite of mine. After you get everything all mixed together and well incorporated, these are ready to roll into balls and bake in the oven. No chilling required. I grabbed my cookie sheet lined with a silicone liner, and then in a separate little bowl here, I have 1/3 cup of granulated sugar and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. This is what we're going to roll the cookies in. I'm using my 1½ tablespoon size cookie scoop, and this dough is a little sticky. So I found it easier to kind of scoop the dough and drop it right on into the sugar mixture there, and then start rolling it into a ball. If you try to roll it before you drop it in the sugar, it will be a little too sticky and a little hard to roll. Okay, I've got all those covered in sugar and rolled into balls. Now these go into the oven to bake at 375 for about 10 minutes. The cookies will be a little puffy when they first come out of the oven, but they will flatten out a little. But these are very soft and they have the perfect amount of cinnamon flavor. I'm telling you, I'm obsessed with them. They're like a cinnamony sugar cookie. And you can store these in an airtight container at room temperature for up to a week, if they last that long. We devoured these. We loved them. They were that good. By the way, if you're new, I would really love to have you here. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. It's totally free. That way you get notified of all my future videos. And I had to break one of these here just to show you kind of the chewy texture. They were perfect. I could not make a cookie video without including some no-bake chocolate oatmeal cookies. Before we begin though, you do want to get a couple cookie sheets lined and ready to go. Also have your peanut butter, your vanilla, and your quick oats out and ready. Now we're going to get started. In a large saucepan, you're going to add in 1 stick of butter. I did slice mine up where it would melt faster. I also added 2 cups of granulated sugar, half a cup of milk, and 3 tablespoons of Hershey's cocoa powder. You're going to turn the heat to medium and stir it or whisk it until everything is melted. Once it's all melted, you're going to wait for it to boil. And then when this mixture starts to boil, you're going to set your timer for 60 seconds. And you're going to let it boil while whisking constantly until the 60 seconds are over. One very important thing about this recipe, you have to work quickly. So whisk fast for 60 seconds, and then you're going to remove it from the heat, and then immediately add in 3/4 cup of creamy peanut butter and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and then you're going to give this a quick little mix just to get it semi-combined before we add in the quick oats. Now you're going to add in 2½ cups of the quick cooking oats. Not the old-fashioned oats, the quick cooking kind. And whisk as fast as you can, or stir as fast as you can, until it's almost completely combined. Now we're going to run over to the counter. Grab a cookie scoop and start scooping the cookies onto the lined baking sheet. And you'll notice the more cookies you scoop, the more that mixture will start to firm up. So the first ones will go on there just perfectly and kind of spread out a little bit. And then the more you do, the more you'll have to start spreading them out a little bit with the back of the cookie scoop. I cannot tell you how much my husband likes these cookies. He absolutely loves them. And for a long time there, I was making these at least twice a week. Yes, twice a week. They are delicious and one of the best cookies of all time. I've made these cornflake cookies once before. We loved them, and I was so excited to make them again. In the bowl of my stand mixer, I added 1 stick of softened butter and half a cup of shortening. I also added a cup of sugar and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now you're going to cream this mixture together until it's well combined. And by the way, I have tried this with all butter, and there is an all butter version of these cookies, but they did not turn out right for me. So back to the butter shortening version I went. After I got all that cream together, you do want to scrape the sides of the bowl down. Now we're going to push this aside for just a minute. Now in a medium-sized bowl, I added 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, along with half a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Give that a quick little mix. Now we're ready to add those dry ingredients into that butter sugar mixture. I just got this paddle attachment with the scraper that I was very excited to use to find that it does not fit my KitchenAid mixer. So back to the old one I went. And you don't want to overmix this. Just let it mix until all that flour is gone, or no dry flour remains. We still have a couple more things to add in here. You're going to add in 1 cup of chopped pecans and 4 cups of cornflakes. And not the frosted flakes, just the regular old plain cornflakes. And I did give it a little mix after I added those pecans, and then I added the cornflakes. And the recipe does say to mix this part, the cornflakes and the pecans, by hand, so you don't overmix it, but I didn't. I just gave it one little quick mix and that was it. So just to be on the safe side, you may want to mix those pecans and cornflakes in by hand. And this dough does not have to be chilled. I grabbed a cookie sheet lined with a silicone liner. And you can spoon these on, but I used my 1½ tablespoon size cookie scoop just to make sure they were all the same size. But they don't all necessarily turn out that way. I'll show you in a minute here. After I got them all scooped, I did go back through and kind of roll them a little bit just to kind of make sure they were held together better. These cookies are more like a shortbread cookie, and some of the reviews did say that theirs fell apart, but I have not had that experience both times I've made them. I could see where if you made them too large, maybe they'd fall apart, but I let mine bake at 350 for 11 to 12 minutes. And you see here what I mean? I don't know what happened to some of those. Some of them look itty bitty, and some of them looked perfect. You'll know they're done when they're just barely golden brown around the edges. And I'm telling you, my whole family loves these. I don't know what it is with the cornflakes in here, but it just gives it the perfect amount of texture. And those pecans in here are absolutely delicious. I found this recipe actually from a Paula Deen video, and it's not her recipe, it's someone else's recipe, but she was trying them out, and hers looked so good that I had to try them last year, and I am hooked on them now. So I will leave the original recipe below in my description box, along with Paula Deen's video. Okay, this was my first time trying these butter cookies, and I am showing you real life right here. In the bowl of my stand mixer, I added 2 sticks of butter and 3/4 cup of sugar. You're going to cream these together until they're well combined. Next, you're going to add in 1 large egg yolk, not the whole egg, just the yolk, along with 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And you'll just let that continue to mix until it's combined. Now we're going to slowly add in 2 cups plus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And you'll just let that continue to mix until you've added in all that flour and everything is well combined. You'll have to let me know below, what is your favorite holiday cookie? Oh, and we are going to chill these, but not just yet. We're going to pipe them into little butter cookie shapes before we chill them. And the recipe did specify to use an Ateco 827 piping tip, but all I had was this large Wilton piping tip, so I thought it would be just fine, but no, it was not. It's actually more of a closed piping tip, and what you need is more of an open star piping tip. And this dough is very thick, and it was very, very hard to pipe onto that cookie sheet. So after I did a couple, the edges of those just did not look good. They were actually a mess. So I scraped them off and did a couple more. And after a few more, I decided to try another tip because it just wasn't working. So I went digging in my cake decorating cabinet and I found this large one with more teeth. That's the one that I did use to start with. So I won't use that again, or I didn't think I would use that again. So I ended up using the large one with the lot of teeth, and that still just didn't do right. It did not look like a butter cookie. So I switched back to this one right here. I did, however, take my knife and bend those little teeth outward to make it an open star tip instead of a closed star tip, and it worked perfectly. So with the star tip being closed, they just did not pop right. But once I bent those teeth out, that did the trick. So you're going to pop your cookies on here, and then we're going to take this cookie sheet and we're going to place it in the freezer actually. I've tried them before without freezing them and they did spread. So I popped them in the freezer and froze them for about an hour. And then you can see how you can just pick them up and put them wherever you want. And now you can see these are frozen solid. They're going right into the oven to bake at 375 for 10 minutes. And once they come out of the oven, you'll know they're done. They're just barely golden brown around the edges. I let them cool on the cookie sheet for about 5 minutes. And then I transferred them to a cooling rack so they could completely cool. And when they were cool, I melted down some milk chocolate, or you could use semi-sweet or dark chocolate. Now these butter cookies are delicious on their own, but that chocolate just takes them to a whole nother level. And I think they look really pretty dipped in chocolate. I just dipped mine about 3/4 of the way, then I let that excess chocolate run off, and then I laid them back onto the cookie sheet. Now, if you want to leave them just like this, that is totally fine, but it's Christmas time, and I wanted to add on some sprinkles. You could do colored sanding sugar, or any kind of sprinkles you like. But if you do add sprinkles, I will tell you, you'll need to do it kind of immediately before that chocolate has time to set up. These would also be really good and really pretty dipped in white chocolate. You could even melt down some of the red or green candy melts and dip them in that. That would be really, really pretty actually. And I just kept it simple here and added some red sprinkles. And then I let them sit out on the cookie sheet here until that chocolate was completely set. These cookies were delicious, perfect for Christmas. And like I said, if you want to just make the butter cookies alone and just leave them like that, they'll be delicious too. Because the cookies have a melt in your mouth, buttery flavor that I absolutely loved. Paired with the chocolate, they are out of this world good. Oh, and I also found a chocolate butter cookie recipe that I really want to try. I really hope you enjoyed this video. You may also like these. Don't forget to subscribe down below for more easy recipes Oh, and I want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the next one.